All right, so I think we all know the feeling of being overwhelmed in a class, whether it be elementary school, high school, or even now in college. We've all had classes that have 25 students or more and only one teacher, and the stress this can bring as a student, or watching your teacher get very flustered over a situation in the class, whether it be positive or negative, because they feel overworked and understaffed. Today, I'm going to focus on the ratio of teacher, early childhood educators, and educational assistants to the number of students in each class and the impact this has on everyone involved and the role this can play in professionalism, ethics, and advocate for better ratios. When looking at the effect these ratios are going to have on children, it's going to cause a problem with their overall development, sense of belonging, engagement, and enjoyment in the classroom. Their overall development would be the most concerning area because with such large classes and only two educators, not every child is going to receive the learning that they need to thrive in class. It will be more difficult to create small activities and individual work. When looking at quality childcare with professional practices, this will become a big issue because children are going to start to fall behind since they're not receiving the help that they actually need. Not saying that big groups activities don't help children, but each child does learn differently, so therefore they are going to need that professional teaching and individual time with the educator for them to succeed properly. When focusing on the challenges this is going to play as educators, from personal experience, I found it has them very overwhelmed, unhappy, and not achieving personal or professional goals. It's overwhelming because for an educator, they plan out lessons and follow their practices the best they can, but it almost never goes according to plan because they're always running around since they have no help in the classroom, whether this be running around after a child that might just be a little more rambunctious than the other kids, or running around after a mess, or whatever happened. They just don't get to stick to what they wanted to do because there's always something going on. This causes them to be unhappy because because they know the damage this is going to play on the children they come in contact with, and this ties into their personal and professional goals because they are getting slowed down or stopped from having to do a million other things, like I mentioned before. Personally, for me at my last placement, I saw this firsthand. We often had to change things up or stop the class completely because something else was always happening and there just was no other help for anyone to go to. Excuse me. When focusing on how this affects the family, I think as future educators and some of us even being parents ourselves, we understand to some degree how stressful it is being a parent to begin with, and the emotions that come with having to leave your child in the hands of someone else every day, just hoping they're getting the best care possible. So when you see 25 to 30 children and a stressed educator trying to keep things flowing smoothly, you can begin to think this is not a very professional atmosphere and have doubts about the learning your child is receiving. Therefore, this affects the quality of the child, like the child care. This affects the reputation of the child care center or the school. This affects how the educator looks at themselves because they're trying the best they can possibly do and it's still just not working, and this stress out the child because the child can see how stressed out you are as a parent. It's just a very bad cycle all in all. But overall, with the ratios that we have right now and class sizes still beginning to grow in numbers, we can assume the atmosphere of these childcare settings or schools is going to become less professional than it already is. Even if educators are trying their best, this can cause some educators in stress situations to forget some of the ethical ways that they've been taught to react with children and kind of go out of their comfort zone in obviously more a negative way. And then as a future educator myself, I think we should be advocating for more assistance in the classrooms, whether this be educational assistance or having just like two registered early child educators and then one other educator, or some way to like balance it out and like swap and switch between classes so that we can ensure we're giving the best care possible. Thank you.